Adventure and Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Diamonds and gold and some precious stones, repairing all their making bones. Resignate at the king frequency. Electrifying, death-defying. If I'm too much, try someone less.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio. And I'm here with our next guest who has some killer new music. So let's welcome to the show Tony West from Blacklist Union. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. And so I love this new single you got, Up in Smoke, and the video is pretty killer. So tell us a little bit about, your creative ideas of making this video.
I mean, the song's about pretty much trying to stay in the moment. You know what I'm saying? And which is not a hard thing to do. I tell my kids, I'm like, it's called the present because if you can actually stay in it, it's a gift, And look at kids, like kids are in the moment all the time. Like they don't have worries about, how am I going to pay this or what happened yesterday and stuff. You know what I mean? And we were all kids once, and we all have that. So that's kind of what that song's about. And so many songs I've written about this hideous relationship thing I went through and all that. And that's partly influenced by that. But a lot of the songs, I don't know if you know, but like been to the jungle a bunch of times with the Shipibo Indians and the Amazon and Peru. And so a lot of these songs are inspired by those journeys and that, spiritual aspect of life.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more about those journeys because they were, as far as I know, a big part of healing a lot of your past to be able to be in the present. And so I want to hear about your journeys with it because, everybody has a different journey and I'm always curious, what happens. I
had a gnarly, childhood. I grew up in New York and all that and came to LA as a teenager and like teenage runaway basically. And, I went through a lot of things and I lost a lot of people, man. Like my girlfriend was killed in a car accident on the road and my first wife died. And then the Back to Momo record, the fourth record I wrote with Todd Youth, who, I knew him since I was 15 and he was my good friend. And Todd did many things. He played with Danzig. He played everyone from Glenn Danzig to Glenn Campbell, but, and he died. And when he died, October 27, 2018, I was like, man, I can't let this ruin my life because, my wife's death and my girlfriend's death, like that shit ruined. But it destroyed my life. I let it destroy my life. And, drinking and using behind that kind of shit doesn't really help either. But anyway, when Todd died, I had learned through a friend about ayahuasca and I started researching it hardcore. And I found the grand poobahs, so to speak, of who does this. And it's the Shipibo Indians in the Amazon jungle in Peru. So, that's was the beginning of the deep, deep spiritual healing. And that stuff, for the most part sober. And when I went there, I kept telling the Indians, I'm like, yo, I can't do drugs. Like, I don't do drugs. And they're like, this isn't drugs, Tony. This is medicina, because they couldn't speak any English. And I was like, okay. And they were right. And, there's people who say, oh, I've done mushrooms or I've done this and I've done that. And ayahuasca you cannot compare it to anything. It truly, truly, truly is medicine. And it truly does take you to those other realms, these spiritual realms that we all know about, although we just forgot about because we've been here so long and all that stuff. And so I was able to let go of so much sorrow. First of all, I had so much sorrow. I knew I had sorrow, but man, it was deep-seated sorrow. And like my first intention, I remember you have to have an intention every time you go do a ceremony. And my first one was to see all my people that are no longer here on this realm. And man, I saw all of them plus more,
Wow.
But the inspiration and the healing and all of that stuff is just so deeply profound and beautiful. And the Letters from the Psych Ward record is all about that, and so is this new one coming out, Slade the Dragon. It's all about that deep shit.
That's pretty cool, man, because I know a lot of people. There's another band, and my mind's drawing a blank right now because I'm sure we're doing this interview now, and Ozzy just passed. Which is
that's just unbelievable. Ozzy is one of the people that saved my life as a kid. I was just telling, our my assistant here, and dude, I've met him so many times, and he was always super humble, super kind, funny as fuck without even trying to be like,
right.
He just had that, and I have goosebumps when I definitely cried when I heard the news, and but I could tell not so much with Ozzy. I mean, you could see he was not well, but I saw some pictures of Sharon from the event, and I was like, oh God, he's dying. And I just saw that from her, not even from him. You know what I'm saying? It's weird because that day I was practicing vocals, and I usually sing like 20 songs. I know all Ozzy. I studied Ozzy like deep. I could sing any Sabbath song, man, and with Ozzy. And I studied him deep, and he's such a big part of me. And man, there's no words. I mean, Ozzy's gone. It's like, what the fuck,
And I had an idea, just like you, to like just everything. And even now, I'm thinking of all the different things, and it all makes sense. And I said years ago, before he was even ever sick, but when Sharon kept trying to get him to retire, I'm like, man, if he retired, he would probably pass away because he loves the stage and he loves all of it so much, and, it's funny. I went that a similar path to you because, I grew up in Jersey. I was born in New York. One day, not in 1980, my dad comes up to me. He goes, pack your bags. We're moving to California in 3 days.
Wow.
And so,
where in California did you move to?
LA. So I lived that whole metal scene, the Sunset Strip, Troubadour, Country Club. Nice. First club show I ever went to in my life was Motley Crue before they even had an album, when they were like horror punk, and it was at the Roxy, and they were trying to burn the Roxy down to bring Satan in. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to a real concert ever again. That's the greatest thing I ever saw, type of thing. Right. And, and then I did go to, what was it? I think it was 82. I'm trying to remember which year, but New Year's Eve, Ozzy played. I think it was the Forum. And I told my dad I was sleeping over my bro's house. He told his parents he was sleeping over my house, the typical thing. And we went to Ozzy's show. It was with Randy Rhoads like a few months before he died. So I got to see Randy. And then weirdest thing happened. We get home, and I'm living in like Lake Lindero in Agora, and I'm at the bottom by the lake. So my parents and my dad wouldn't see us and stuff. And my next door neighbor comes out. She sees us with all the Ozzy swag on, and she goes, hey, boys, were you just at the Ozzy concert? And we're like, yeah. And we're like, oh, fuck, we're in trouble now. And she goes, wait there. I'm going to get my husband. And so we're like, oh, crap. Husband comes out, brings us up to the house. He had a studio in the house, wall-to-wall cassette tapes. Turned out he was Ozzy's promoter.
Nice.
Like, it was like wild. And then I had a history class at Agora High that the only project we had to do was an oral report on anything, anybody. And I did mine on Ozzy and got an A. So, nice. Yep, the Ozzy runs deep here too.
Yeah, there's just no words, dude.
I don't even know.
It actually does. I mean, my heart hurts, actually. You know what I mean? Because he did so much for me, and so many others. I mean,
everybody,
he was so loved. Like, he was loved, dude, for all his kookiness and all his stuff. Like, he was just accepted and loved. Like, that's a beautiful thing,
Totally. Like, who would ever imagine? Like, even you think about him even lasted as long as he did. Nobody would have ever imagined he lasted as long as he did, that all the shenanigans that he got involved in. But I think it
snorting
is.
ants. And
I know, right?
I love the one story where there was protesters at his concert and he was wearing a dress and a wig and he got into the crowd and was protesting with them and shit. Like,
It's so Ozzy too,
Yeah,
man.
man.
Like it's just so amazing. And even right down to the end with the sense of humor, you're talking about how funny he was. Like, I'm sure you saw when Sid proposed to Kelly, but before he got it out of his mouth, Ozzy's like, "You're not fucking marrying my daughter." Like right to the
kid and shit, you know.
Oh man, so wild. But I love your concept of your music and using that ayahuasca journey, because it's kind of like music is the best therapy there is, in my opinion. And so now you're taking everything, to me, that started to heal you and put it into your music so we can all heal too.
That's exactly right, dude.
And I love your
I think
philosophy.
these last two records have really hit harder, way harder than our previous things, because everything's a frequency and a vibration, you know, and people don't know exactly why it might be hitting them harder, but it's true. Like my friend calls it medicine music, you know, it's therapeutic. And the way I write shit also for myself is reminders on how to deal with things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm not floating away like Gandhi, and, you know, the staying in the moment thing is practice, just like music, just like yoga, you know what I mean? And some moments are easier than others and so forth. But
well, I'm also a motivational speaker, and I'm a firm believer, like, it's not easy to be positive. Like, you don't just wake up and you're like that. It takes work. It's much easier to be negative, you know, for
I've
sure.
been listening to this dude, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Have you heard of him?
I've heard the name, but I haven't heard his stuff.
Amazing, dude. Like, it's basically rewiring your brain. Like, you know, someone like me who grew up in this verbally abusive, physically abusive, you name it, you know, home as a child, that stuff sticks in your brain, man. Like,
yeah, totally.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I was told bad things about myself as a kid and like believed that stuff. And I remember one time, you know, this therapist was like, you know, that's a lie, right? So
I love that.
She's like, and I remember I went to say something and I cried because no one ever said that to me before. But, you know, yeah, it's rewiring. This dude, Dr. Joe Dispenza, is really great. He talks about, you know, rewiring and the power that we have. And it's funny because all the things he talks about, I discovered on my own in the ayahuasca ceremonies too. You know what I mean? And
nice.
Again, we all know these things, but we just forgot, you know, for the most part. Yeah.
Well, that's what happens. You know, you go through life and all this shit is thrown your way. And you do kind of forget because you get caught in the darkness sometimes.
Right. Yeah. And it's not easy to get out sometimes either, you know.
No, not at all.
People never do, you know, kills them.
Yeah, exactly. Which it's a blessing that you found. I always say to people, find what works for you. Right. You know, like even with my kid, you know, I had this horrific childhood that I gravitated to motivational speakers. Like I was listening to Tony Robbins and reading his books when I was 11 years old, you know, and that was my like way to kind of deal. And then the mosh pit has always been my way of dealing.
Oh yeah, you know? Punk rock was huge. Yeah, for me, punk rock saved my life. Punk rock,
no doubt, man. It's like people don't get it with the mosh pit. It's not about going in to hurt and maim people. It's about going in, getting your shit out so you don't hurt and maim people on the outside.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But then, you know, I remember as a kid, you know, all the I call it jock rock, like some of the hardcore, like, you know, they'd be swinging and stuff and like punching and kicking.
Yeah,
and,
no, I'm not into that.
Right. Yeah, no, me neither. But.
Like, I like the circle pit, the camaraderie, the family, somebody falls, you pick them up.
Yeah,
like, and it's just, listen, when I've had shit happen in my life, like really, like deaths and deep shit, I go in the pit and just lay it all out there, you know?
Get the angst out, yep.
No doubt. So you got the album dropping in September, Slay the Dragon.
Yeah.
What else can we expect from that album? You know, Up in Smoke, everybody's got to check out the video. It's cool as hell.
We just shot
else?
2 new videos. We just shot 2 new videos over the weekend in Houston. man, there were long days too. Those were like 12-hour days, Saturday and Sunday.
Wow.
But for the next singles, it's called Dying for You is the next single. And the one after that is called Can You Heal Me? And then there's 12 originals on the new record. There's no covers. We haven't done any covers for this record. But there's some good deep cuts, man. There's one called Do It for the Song that we added to our set, which is just amazing. And, the last two records too is, our rhythms, have become a niche of our sound, that the drums and the bass. And I'm big on tom drums, man, because like tom drums bring it has the Indian, aspect, and spiritualness to it and stuff. But man, it's a kick-ass record and I'm really proud of it. So, and I wrote this one again with Chris Johnson, our producer, who's produced all our records. This is going to be our 6th. And after Todd died, I tried to find a songwriting partner, and that's like trying to find a wife. And whatchamacallit, I just said to Chris, our producer, I was like, why don't we just write the record? I mean, our sound, my voice better than anyone. He helped me develop my voice, basically. So, Chris Johnson wrote the whole letters from the Psych Ward record and this record, Slay the Dragon. Although I did write a few songs with our manager, Paul Crosby, who used to be in Saliva. So
nice. Yes, I saw about that. That's pretty cool too. And I do love the Indian drumming type of thing. Always have. I remember even when I wasn't supposed to like them, way back in the 80s, I was totally into Adam and the Ants, not Adam Ant, but Adam and the Ants.
Yeah.
And Bow Wow Wow because of that same drum stuff.
Right. Right.
Yeah, you listen to songs like Dog Eat Dog and Ant Music, the drums in that is just so killer, know?
Yeah.
So tell everybody how they hit you guys up on socials, on the web. Check out all your new music, check the old stuff out, merch, tour dates, all that stuff.
Yeah, man, we're on everything across the board, all platforms. You can find us on Spotify. We have plenty of killer videos on YouTube. And like I said, this is going to be our 6th record, full length. We have a lot of music out there and a lot of stuff. But, I do want to say one thing, with Ozzy dying and all this stuff is back in the day, Ozzy gave people like Motley chances, or he brought people on the road that no one heard of, and people did that, back in the day. And I've been saying lately, I'm sure Steven Tyler and Joe Perry are going to do another Aerosmith tour. It's just going to be inevitable, but even Angus from AC/DC, or Six from Motley, or Duff and Slash and Axl and Del James, Axl's right hand man, and please give Blacklist Union a chance and take us on the road, with you guys. And so we can carry the torch of rock and roll. And because there's people that know about us, but there's lots of people that love rock and roll that still don't know about Blacklist Union. You know what I'm saying? So I've been saying to these people, please give us a chance. We won't let you down. And, it's not only the music. First of all, you got to have the songs, and you got to have, I always say you got to bring the wow factor, because if you don't have the wow factor, you're wasting your time. And, our live shows are better than the record, and that's what I worked my ass off to be a good singer and stay in shape and all that stuff. But look, we're looking for someone to give us a break, whether it's even, the Steel Panther guys or the Buck Cherry guys, or someone that will take us under their wing for a while and let us do direct support for them,
There you go.
And to create another scene, to create some rock and roll for everyone, for the masses. People need rock and roll. I have a 13-year-old daughter, dude, and she'll play me the shit she listens to. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, Mia, because the lyrics, I consider myself a wordsmith. I love writing lyrics. It's one of my favorite things. And, these people on so much new stuff, it's like, they say this shit, man, where it's just it's about the dope, the bitches, the money, whatever, these negative things, but they flat out say it. And I was telling my daughter, Mia, there's a lot of ways to say those things, but not saying it that way. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
So people need rock and roll, man. Look at the whole world's going to be affected by Ozzy dying. You know what I mean? People want and need rock and roll now, especially in the UK and Europe and South America and Australia and stuff. The US is a little behind on that shit. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, totally.
rock and roll. Like people skip LA entirely nowadays on their itineraries and stuff. You know, it's just
it's not what it used to be. Not when I was haunting LA. It's not like that. But I'll tell you what, it's wild too. To your point, so I do festivals all over the U.S., UK, Europe. Just got back from incarceration. That's why I have no voice. And and one thing I noticed over in Europe and the UK, is there are bands that I was into in the 80s that I thought were gone. And they weren't gone. They were just over there all this time because the people love music so much. And, you know, the creativity, like, of some of these bands, like, I was instantly thinking of you when you're just talking about, like, I just did Hellfest. And you have these bands like Heilung and, you know, other bands that are, like, spiritually based, but, like, have this cultish following over there. And the coolest shit, like, that would probably be a good tour for you to get on with Heilung. Check them out if you've never checked them out. They're a trip.
How do you spell that?
Heilung.
Heilung. Okay.
And they put on this show, like, even if you don't like their music, they put on this show that is absolutely insane. And people over there, like, they're like a cultish following for this band, like big time, you know? And I saw it kind of in you because of watching the video and the same type of spiritual thing. And with the ayahuasca and all that, just, it all goes hand in hand. But I also do all the Danny Wimmer festivals. And so I'm going to shout out right now, in case Danny hears it himself, that he's got to check you guys out, because he is the guy in the U.S. nowadays that takes bands under his wing. You know, like, it's wild. The festival I just did, which is at Shawshank Prison, a few years back, this band, okay, they did the old school shit. They invaded the festival. They, like, pulled up into the parking lot and started playing. They're called Silly Goose. Wimmer was out there when they were doing it, and they ended up playing the real stage the next day and have played a bunch of the festivals since. So I'm just putting that out there in the universe for you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
you got it. Any other last words you want to share with the listeners that we haven't covered already?
Well, I mean, if you haven't heard Blacklist Union, check us out. If you love rock and roll, I always say we have a money back guarantee if you buy our record. If you love rock and roll, you buy our record and you hate it, money back guarantee. You know what I mean?
And I bet you never have to do that because people
I haven't had
love
to do it yet. No, but there's always one guy, you know.
Right? But yeah, I'm looking forward to all the new music and everything you're doing. I'm glad you're on this journey because I think the whole world needs this journey right now.
They really do. Yeah, I always say, I don't know if you've noticed, but the world's gone batshit crazy.
Oh, listen, from traveling to outside the country, you just realize how crazy shit is too. You know,
it's funny because going to Peru, I remember the first time I was there, and like we were in these villages. I mean, to get to the jungle is like a whole journey in itself. But these villages where I'm like, you know, these people have nothing. Like they have no windows where the windows go. There's no glass. There's no doors. And at first I was like, these people have nothing, but they have everything because what they have is family and community and love, and they take care of each other, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, wow.
Oh, I totally know because I go to Costa Rica all the time surfing, and I go like way off the beaten path, you know, and the people, like, they have nothing, like you're saying. A Tico house is basically it's like you're camping, you know, and they're always happy.
Right.
And they're always doing stuff with family. And I saw that in Bali too. Same thing. It's like, and
we got it wrong here in the US, man.
Oh,
you know, like,
I'm telling you,
caught up trying to survive and pay these crazy bills and all this stuff, the rents and the groceries and the gas and all the nuttiness, you know, and those people got it going on. They hardly have any possessions. They don't even need them. They don't care. You know what I mean?
No. And, you know, the whole disappearing, like, I always thought, you know, man, I love New York and the energy and and the fast pace and blah, 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 until I went to Costa Rica. And like, you're sitting there with the whole town walking to the beach 2 hours before sunset, just to experience the sunset. That's it.
Yeah, see, we all lost that. Like, we lost that shit here in the U.S.
No doubt, 100%.
Do you live in New York now?
No, I live in South Florida where it's really fucking crazy.
What part?
I'm in near West Palm Beach. I live on this island called Singer Island, so I'm kind of separated from the crazies. But literally, my studio's in Wellington, so I have to drive by Mar-a-Lago to get to my studio.
Yeah.
And there's so many people I know that they need a ayahuasca ceremony because they are batshit crazy right now, man.
Yeah. You know, they do them in Costa Rica.
I know. Well, that's what I was going to mention earlier, but I'm drawing a blank. There's this band. I'll know it as soon as I, hang on. There's this band I've interviewed a couple times. I've gotten friendly with them. He owns a ayahuasca thing in Costa Rica. Costa Rica.
Oh, please let me know. Yeah.
I'm going to look it up when I remember, and then I'll email you his info because if nothing else, good to connect with too, and maybe you guys can tour together since you're on that same journey. You know
who's into it too? I went to see The Cult a couple years ago, and Ian Astbury is a huge influence on me, especially as a kid. And he's always had that Indian spiritual kind of flair thing,
right?
But I saw them play at the Greek Theater like 2 or 3 years ago, and he, in the between songs, said, "I want to thank Mother Ayahuasca." I was like, "What the hell?"
Whoa!
Yeah, so he's hip to it. People are hip to it, and especially as an artist, like, do yourself a favor and do it, man, because it's so healing. And we're like instruments, we have to stay in tune. And I always say, like a drain, for instance, if a drain is clogged with like hair and all this shit, the water stops flowing, right? So if we're clogged up as humans with sorrow and pain and regret and remorse and resentment and all these things, we can't be a proper flow of energy, because a true artist will tell you, it ain't about me, man. I'm just a channel. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But how the hell am I going to be a channel if I'm clogged up with all this pain, dude?
No doubt.
You can't be. And then, that's a whole rabbit hole, but then people take meds or whatever. Like that's a whole thing, but I don't fuck with anything. But
I'd rather do stuff like ayahuasca than any big pharma shit any day.
Yeah, fuck that. I always say, and this is from my experience, I know people need it, and I'm not a doctor by any means, never played one on TV either. But my experience has been that the pharmaceuticals are worse than street drugs, dude. And that's
no doubt.
Because street drugs, at least you in a 2 weeks, say, or maybe if you had a physical addiction or the depression that comes with the kicks and all that, 2 weeks you're out of the woods. With the med thing, 6 to 9 months of losing your mind.
Yeah.
And that shit happened to me twice, and I'll never ever ever do anything like that again.
No doubt. And it's like, so they keep legalizing marijuana everywhere, but they're doing the same thing. They're taking this organic stuff and making it mad science, like man-made science. The shit's stronger. There's more ways to do it. And then you see people.
All this shit. Yeah.
It's just like they're just zoned out of their mind, and it's not better. Now that they have control over it, that to your point.
Yeah. I know. It's really nuts, dude.
Well, thank God we got people like you and artists like you, so you could be, a voice for all the rest of us. And I thank you for that. And thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.